David, is there anything different that you're seeing out of Brett Baty aside from the obvious results that gives you some encouragement that he may have turned a corner up here?
So the what he's doing here for last week is what when we go to Syracuse and we watch him in Syracuse, it's the quality, it's the same quality of bats that we have seen in Syracuse since I've been here. I mean, if you go to catch a week of Brett Baty in Syracuse, you could very easily just run into a week like we've just seen here at the big leagues. So why are we seeing it now at the big league level? I don't know that I have the definitive answer for that. If I had the definitive answer, we probably would have implemented that a long time ago to help get to this point. But just, he's clearly seeing the ball well. He's gotten some pitches he can handle, and he hasn't missed them. And there are probably a variety of reasons for that. Some of it confidence, some of it he's a really talented baseball player, some of it preparation. And it kind of all combines, and we've had a pretty special week for him.
When you talk about, that version, seeing him certainly for long stretches at Syracuse since you've been here, how much patience just from a front office perspective does that take to say, all right, we know something's in there. We're going to keep giving him opportunities when they arise to see if he can figure it out here?
I think we learn all the time that it just takes different pacing for different players to establish themselves or break out or whatever you want to call it at the major league level. So does the clock run out on players at certain points in their careers with certain organizations? Yeah, it does. If you run out of options, or if a particular position gets filled, or something like that, then yes, I have seen and certainly been involved with players where the time and the clock has just run out in a particular organization. But when they have that level of talent, they're generally going to figure it out at some point, and have some success at the major league level. And I think we're seeing that with Brett right now.
Mike?
David, you're always looking to improve the team. We're a little past the quarter pole here. As you sit here, is it tough for you to identify a weakness, like something you have to shore up right now?
I think we're a pretty balanced team. We can always get better. I mean, we're far from a perfect team, and there are absolutely ways we can improve. I think some of that improvement comes internally. I think we can play better defense, and that's an area where we can get better. And I think the players we have are capable of playing better defense. In terms of external acquisitions, we're always monitoring, but sometimes it takes a little bit deeper into the season to find the right fit. And I don't see any specific glaring spot on the team right now that maybe we had last year at this time that we feel like we need to be extremely proactive about. But if there are areas where we feel like we can get better and players available, we're certainly going to make a deal.
Is there any one unit, whether it's the lineup, starting pitching, bullpen, that has maybe outperformed what you thought might happen here early?
Not really. I mean, not really. I think we felt pretty good that we had a balanced team and that we were going to be pretty good. We've played pretty well. Again, I don't think we've played flawless baseball by any stretch of the imagination. I think we're a good team that's played well, and frankly, I've had moments where there have probably been a couple games that have gotten away from us. But I don't know that anything has really shocked me in terms of the quality of performance. I think we've got good players. They're playing hard. They're working really hard, and we've been able to win some games.
Tony?
What is the plan for Ronny Mauricio once his rehab clock expires?
So Ronny continues to progress, still in AA. We'll get him up to AAA here pretty soon. And then it's just play all three on the infield, continue to build up volume. He's still got, I think, a little ways to go to get – he's a healthy player, but to get back into that true baseball shape, ready to compete at a high level at the big leagues, I think we still got a little bit of a ways to go. And so it's continuing to get him at bats, continuing to get him reps in the minor leagues.
And once that happens, what is your, I guess, medium-term plan with him?
In terms of position or
Once you deem that he's had enough at bats, like where does he go? What
well,
is his,
he's a player who has options, and so he's going to stay in the minor leagues until we have a need.
Manny.
Just to stick with Mauricio really quick, why has it taken him so long to get into baseball shape?
I think this was a very, very serious injury that the rehab did not go smoothly. He had a lot of inflammation in the knee throughout this. It probably took us till August of last year to really get this under control from an inflammation standpoint, allow him to really start stressing the ligament and getting going. And so it's certainly taken longer than we anticipated. I think we are on the right track here, but he's now been was out of baseball competition for over a year. And that's a big hill to climb to get back, and he's working really hard, and I think he's going to get there. And he's on a good path.
And just to get into your team's pitching a little bit here, coming from the Brewers last year and keeping Jeremy Hefner, I think he's the only coach that you guys kept from other previous regimes. Just how is it that this team is able to continue to have so much success taking pitchers like Griffin Canning or like Clay Holmes and have them turn into these successful pitchers that they turned into here?
So I think, first of all, the majority of our major league staff is actually from before I got here. So we have a lot of coaches who have remained, and they're all really talented. I think in the case of our pitching, so first it starts with the players, and I think there's narrative about what is the organization doing, what are we doing. It starts with the players. These guys are working really hard. We provide resources, we provide information. I think we provide very skilled coaches who also work very hard. But at the end of the day, this is players taking control of their careers and finding success with that. And that's been true with every pitcher who's come here and had success. It's been very self-motivated individuals who worked really hard, bought into what we were asking them to do, and in many cases excelled. And so the majority of the credit goes to certainly the player. And then I think Jeremy Hefner and our entire pitching apparatus does a really, really good job of putting them into positions to succeed.
Howie.
David, just to go back to Ronny Mauricio's rehab for a moment. When you have all the data and biometric information at your disposal that you do about a player's conditioning, and you have someone who's coming back from as serious an injury as Ronny is, what tells you when he is as far back just physically in terms of conditioning and overall physical strength as he's going to get? Does the data inform you, or is it more the eye test, and is there a balance there?
So it's the combination, and we rely on all the testing that's going on in the gym and the training room, but we also rely on our coaches, some of whom have worked with him for a very long time, to be able to tell us, is this what you're used to seeing from a fully healthy Ronny Mauricio? And I think where we are right now is we have a player who is medically healthy, who has checked off a lot of the boxes in the rehab progression, has worked really hard to get there, and now we're working him back into Ronny Mauricio, the baseball player, who was on the verge seemingly of really breaking out at the major league level. And that takes some time as well.
And just as far as moving, running, pivoting, everything that goes into recovering completely from what he had, how close is he to being all the way back to where he was?
I think he's close. I don't think I can sit here and say that it's that from a pure quickness reaction standpoint, it's exactly the same. But I think he's very close at this point, and we have all indications that he will be able to get back to completely 100% from a physical standpoint.
And as you've moved Matt Allen up, long way to go for him, obviously, but how satisfied or pleased are you with where he's at, maybe versus what your expectations might have been?
Yeah, incredibly happy for Matt, incredibly happy for our entire rehab group and medical staff that put in a lot of effort with him. It's a great story. I think think we're all rooting for him incredibly hard, knowing what he's gone through. And now to be able to take these positive steps in his career is pretty cool.
Is it too soon to say he's in the mix, not to get to the big leagues this year necessarily, but that he's back to being a legitimate prospect in your eyes, or is it more of a project with the hope that he can once again develop into a prospect, if that makes sense?
No, this is a special arm, and so I think as long as he stays healthy, he is a prospect, and it's why he was thought of as an amateur the way he was. That's why his draft stock was so high. That's why this organization was so excited about him before he got hurt. So I absolutely look at him as a prospect.
Anthony.
David, Friday night in the Bronx, Juan Soto is going to probably be the center of attention. What do you think it is about him that allows him to sort of play into those bigger moments like that will probably be?
I think he just is the same guy regardless of what the moment is, and he's very consistent in his preparation. He enjoys the moment. He also doesn't make more of it than it is, and he understands he's got to keep himself focused and centered, and I think he does a very good job of that.
Mike.
David, you talked about, you mentioned maybe wanting to improve defensively, but within the framework of what you have already, how do you go about that?
Well, I think we have players, a couple of different players, a variety of different players who are good defenders, very good defenders in certain cases, who have made some mistakes this year. And that's going to happen, and it gets magnified in smaller samples like we've had over the first 6 weeks of the season. But I would expect us to be a better defensive team over the next 4.5 months of the season than we have been over the first month and a half.
Mark.
One more prospect one. You've already moved Nolan McLean up once this year. Just how close do you feel like he is to being ready here?
I think the first thing with Nolan is he's done a tremendous job in pro ball so far, and now he's got his next challenge ahead of him, and that challenge is AAA. So I'm not going to start getting into timelines to Major League arrival quite yet. I think we're going to let him perform at AAA. His first start was great. That was great to see, and look forward to watching him continue that.
Keith.
Runners in scoring position, batting average can be a weird statistic for a front office. How do you analyze those moments, even though it's maybe a little antiquated generally, but tells the story of the game that day? What are you looking for in those moments?
Quality at bats. If we're taking competitive at bats, if we're controlling the strike zone in those moments, regardless of what the outcome is, I tend to view that as we're in a good spot, and we will eventually have the results that we are looking for. And I think for the most part, I look at our at bats, our leverage at bats, whether it's runners in scoring position, 2 outs, whether it's runner on third less than 2 outs. I look at how we've handled those leverage counts and those leverage situations. And I think for the most part, we've done a pretty good job. We haven't always been rewarded for it. We haven't always gotten the base hit. But for the most part, I've been pretty pleased with our approach in the box in leverage moments in the game.
Abby.
Going back to the defense a little bit again, you guys have improved when it comes to catching, throwing runners out. Do you still want to see further improvement there, and just what would you like to see? And it's obviously the pitchers that go into this too. So what are your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we've done a very good job controlling the running game. That's certainly been one of the highlights of our defense so far this year. And you're right, that's a testament not only to the 3 catchers we've had up here, all of whom have thrown really well, but also to our pitching group as a whole, making this a priority, keeping runners close, in certain cases getting a little bit quicker to the plate, and all of that has turned into a team that controls the running game very well.
Was this sort of a concerted effort for you guys to get better in that area this year? Was there some sort of off-season plan that you guys laid out? Because that was sort of a big weakness for you guys last year, and you've taken some big steps in that area.
It was certainly a weakness early for us last year, and it was something that we got exposed with early in last year, and we began to address it with some personnel changes last year, and it did become a priority, especially with our coaching staff. I think Mendy did a great job of prioritizing that with our group, not only in the offseason, but in spring training. And the guys have reacted, and we're in a pretty good spot there right now.
Gary.
I want to follow up on Keith's question about runners in scoring position. Do you look at that as a skill, or do you look at it as part of the random distribution of results?
I believe the ability to stay focused in the moment, concentrating however you want to put it in leverage points is a skill. I don't know that skill always immediately translates to results. So I do not look at batting average with runners in scoring position or really sort of any of those runners in scoring position result stats. I will look at how are we controlling the zone in runners in scoring position. What types of counts are we getting ourselves into with runners in scoring position or in leverage moments of the game? Not surprisingly, generally, better hitters in general are going to perform better in those moments. But I also think it's fair to say that there are certain players who can even elevate their game beyond that because they do have the ability to stay locked in, whether it's keeping their heart rate down or whatever it is, in moments that are tight and in moments that really matter.
And as far as defense is concerned, the publicly available metrics on your team in particular are wildly divergent. So do you have your own metrics to judge, or is it more an eye test for you?
It's both. We certainly have our own internal metrics that I think are pretty good and help us determine where we are relative to our competition, maybe where we are relative to last year performance, and we certainly trust those. We're also going to take our coaching feedback and our subjective evaluation as part of the global look at our defense. I think right now we've had some certainly very strong defensive performances. Brandon Nimmo's played a very, very solid left field. I think there are also areas where, again, we have some guys who are skilled defenders, and we've just made some mistakes at some points.
Andrew?
Where is Paul Blackburn in his rehab, and how do you envision slotting him back in, given how well both the rotation and the bullpen has performed so far?
Paul will have his next rehab outing, I think we're looking at Friday, and we're going to have him do it with Binghamton and Hartford, a little bit of an easier trip for him there in Binghamton, and that's to get him up, hopefully, to that 75 pitch mark. Probably looking at another one most likely after that. We want to get Paul built up back to that full starter workload. He may not immediately slot into the rotation, but if we don't get him built back up to the full starter workload now, we got no shot of doing it if he goes into the bullpen when he comes back. And we think having him built up to that length is important. So we're going to build him up as a starter, and then where exactly he fits in when he's ready is going to be dependent on team need. If we have an injury in the rotation, he could certainly slot back into the rotation. If not, then it's going to be the role we thought it was going to be coming out of camp, which is the long guy out of the pen.
Mike?
David, every team wants their pitching staff to limit walks and keep the ball in the ballpark, but you guys, in terms of limiting home runs this year, I know it's a quarter of a season, but the numbers are off the charts compared to the rest of the league. Is that something that, like you talked, is a skill and something that you guys have looked at? When you're looking to acquire pitchers, something that you focus on, guys that you think can be very good at that. And when you're working with guys, when they get here, or guys that have been in the organization, is that a focus, something that you specifically teach or try to work on to limit home runs like that? So
I think part of it is the skill set of our pitchers. We have certain pitchers that are putting the ball on the ground a lot. So David Peterson puts the ball on the ground a lot. That in and of itself limits home runs. I think usage can be a part of this. What pitches are we electing to throw? There are certain pitches for every pitcher that lead to more damage. Maybe they also lead to some more swing and miss. Maybe they also have different attributes, but they may lead to more damage. And so perhaps at times selecting away from those pitches in certain spots is part of it. And then there's probably some fortune involved in it at this stage in the season as well. I think the extent to which we've limited home runs is probably unsustainable. But I also think we will look up at the end of the year and be one of the better, it's called damage suppression pitching staffs in baseball. I do think we're structured to be that way.